Welcome back to Comedy or Worse. Yay, I'm here with a very special guest.
Avanti!
Yay. So do you use a stage name?
Yes, I do.
Nice. Cool. So how did you get into comedy?
It's a good question. I got into comedy, believe it or not, I didn't get into comedy for comedy. I got into comedy to be a better spoken word performer. I got it because I thought it would increase my skills as also an MC and a host. Yeah. I thought it would just make me a really more confident and ready performer. Nice. So I did that as a challenge to myself, because it was it was one of these big things that I hadn't done yet in my life. Yeah. I had done a lot of other artistic ventures, and it was one of the things that I hadn't done. Okay. So I wanted to try it. It was a challenge. It was like a challenging thing. I wanted to challenge myself. Nice. And I didn't expect to like it so much. So I really just did it to polish up my skills, sure. For my spoken word and my hosting and stuff. And just, how it is, it gives you a better sense of confidence. Yeah, and you're less afraid of other situations too, because of the courage that it takes to do it. So really ups your confidence. Now, I didn't know any of that before I did it. I just thought that it would help me. And it did. And then I actually really loved it. And so I stuck with it. And it turned out that I was able to write jokes. I was able to, write some good comedy, write some stories. Now, I also had already been a writer before that. So that was, that made it easier. I didn't start from nowhere. I had already had stage experience. I'd already been a live performer and a poet and a spoken word artist for a long time. And I used comedy in a lot of my works, but it was not stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is a unique thing. So I really was curious about it and wanted to try it. So that's how I got into it. I took a class in LA. And the teacher was fantastic, and he gave us a lot of confidence, and he really, it could have gone either way. It could have been a disaster. I don't like this, I hate it, the teacher's a jerk, and it really turned me off, and I don't like comedy. It could have been awful, could have been humiliated on stage the first few times. Although I'm not saying that didn't happen, but it didn't turn me off. It happens to all of us, at some point. But so I just, the teacher was great. I stuck with it. I kept writing. I really liked it. I got some lucky breaks, my first year. Wow. I got booked at some clubs, and I had that rookie energy. Yeah. I wanted to get up all the time and perform, because I really loved it. And I wanted to get better. You know how it is, when you start and you feel like you want to be better, and that feeling that you know you could be better at this. Sure. So it keeps you going. Yeah. Keeps you, and then your jokes get tags, your jokes are born, and then you want to keep adding tags, and then they build a life of their own, and then you put stories, and it's a journey. Yeah. It's when you start and you're a middle, and then when you become a pro and you're touring, there's so many different stages of it.
Yeah. Well, everybody has their own journey too.
Right. Yeah, we don't all go along the same journey. Right. Exactly.
So what made you decide to start performing in general?
It happened in a natural way. Again, it wasn't so much that I really wanted to do comedy. It was I just wanted to learn about it.
But I was saying, you were saying you were doing spoken word and hosting and stuff.
Right. I was not. I still am an artist, but I was an artist, and I was hosting art shows and doing some hosting mixed shows with poetry and music and art, and I was doing some hosting, and I just wanted to be better, and so your question was what made me want to keep performing. I think it was right? Was that your question?
What was the first time you got on stage to do anything? Was it spoken word? Was it?
I think that would herald me back to elementary school, when we did, theater groups, and I was not a theater kid, and I wasn't one of, I didn't do that, but I was always comfortable. I never, I didn't have stage fright. I liked presenting things. I liked teaching people. I liked to communicate. It's a good way of communicating with people, to be on a stage and to be able to transmit information in whatever form. It might be comedy, it might be something else, but I love that interaction with a group of people. So yeah, I really like that, and I like the energy that it creates in a room when you're saying things that matter to people. Yeah. So, and it does become like an addiction where you like it, and then you're actually called upon to do it because most people can't do it. They're afraid or whatever those things are. And if you're somehow chosen to be the one, then I don't want to say you have to do it, but if it's your calling and you're called upon to do it, then maybe you should be doing it. That's not true with everybody, but I do feel a certain sense of I have this opportunity, and I have I'm like, wow, most of the people in the world can't do what we're doing. Most people, it's not that they can't or that they won't, they just might never have the opportunity, they might not have the courage, or there might not be comedy clubs where they are. I mean, we're lucky to be in a state, in a country that encourages this art form. So that's a big part of it too, is that we're in a country that has a foundation for us to just walk into it. I didn't have to start a club. I didn't have to make a stage. I didn't have to buy my own microphones. And it was already right there for me. All I had to do was jump on a stage and, write some material. So, I love that aspect of it. I mean, we could talk about the dark side, but we already know,
Right. So what is your writing process for comedy?
So that's a good question. I don't know that it's actually a process, but it is an event. I would say that I'm a binger. I go through, when I teach writing also, and when I teach it, have you ever heard of Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way, that book?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. It's a great, any type of art form, it's a really good handbook. So one of the like holy tenets of that as a writer is right when you get up in the morning, you sit down before you turn on your computer, before you make your coffee, before you do anything, you write down 3 pages. Handwritten, write it. So have you ever done that?
No.
Okay, that's one of these like Bible practices of this.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things I should be doing that I'm not doing, for sure.
That's true with all of us.
But I guess for me, I still have to either have to get better at it or just deal with the fact that it feels like when I force myself to write, it's very bad.
Yeah, I know. Well, when
I just let it come to me spontaneously and just write it down, then
that's better.
It's funner. It's better.
Me too. I agree. So there's that, which is the disciplined act of writing every day, certain time, or every day. It doesn't have to be a certain time, but you're doing those. They're called morning pages, and there's a whole there's a science behind it where right when you get up in the morning, your brain is fresh. You are clear, and it also doesn't really take that long. There's also what happens when you write something down versus when you type it. The handwritten part is important because when you write something down, you open up these synapses in your brain, and there's a connection between your brain when you write it down, the brain and the heart. So you're getting also a form of therapy when you're writing that way. I'm not saying I do it all the time. It's a practice. I mean, it's like any other practice where, are you going to go to the gym every day for 2 hours? It's, do you want to? No, but if you do it, you get the results. So this is one of those things where if you actually do it, it's not always easy. And I'm not saying that I do it every day, but when I go through different stages of how I write, and when I'm in that season of doing my morning pages, 3 handwritten pages every day, I would also up it to 5. I would sometimes do 5 pages instead of 3 because you just start going crazy. But if it feels like a chore, of course, you don't want to do it. But if it feels like a spiritual practice where you're healing and a writing practice where you're actually getting material, it's different. Because it's like, again, the gym analogy. Do we want to drive to the gym and get there and run on the equipment and beat around other sweating people and the bright lights and the noise? No. But if we do it, we're going to feel better afterwards. It's that same thing. It's like doing your reps going to the gym, if you get that out. And it doesn't even really take that long. When I'm in that cycle and I do that, I get some great stuff. And it's not just comedy, but like a lot of things come of that. So I like to teach that. I like to tell people about it because it's such a good way. It's you get used to it like anything else in the morning. Like some people are really routine people. They like the routine. They like getting up and running 2 miles, taking a shower, having those like really, I don't want to say rigid, but like timed routines. People are good at that. I'm not one of those people, but I find if I put myself into those routines, sometimes they can be very beneficial. Yeah. So when I'm in that system, I'm doing my 3 morning pages a day. And, full disclosure, it's not always in the morning. The hard line of it, the lady that created it, Julia Cameron, says it really should be in the morning because of the way your brain is. And, you get it done and then you have a feeling of accomplishment. There's so much to it. And it's a form of therapy, so you feel better. It's a form of meditation. So, like you've accomplished something already, a big thing. Right. So there's a lot to that. But if you absolutely can't, then do it another time the day. Right. Is still good. So I find myself doing that. If I couldn't do it in the morning, I would do it at another time of the day. I was getting some good stuff. So when I'm not in that cycle, and I'm not on that cycle right now, I do what you said, which is when you get inspiration and you feel an idea coming, or you feel a joke, or you feel a thought, and you write it down, then it takes off on a life of its own. Then it's fun. Yeah. It's not a chore. It's not a job. It's not something I got to time myself, or I got to do this, and then feel guilty if you don't do it, or I didn't do it and feel like you have failed yourself in some way. You don't have that when you're doing the way we do it, But one of the downsides is you can also not get those things, or if you do get them, I think a lot of us do, I do, become lazy about writing things down because we're so now used to texting, but that act of writing is very powerful. Yeah. And if you can do that and get it down, I am trying to get myself more disciplined to be writing those thoughts down.
That's a good idea. There are times where I'm trying to memorize something and I will use that time to write it out, and that helps me memorize.
Yeah, that's true. Write the joke and then maybe write your jokes over again.
Yeah. If I actually hand write it, yeah. Because like when I'm writing, I guess the reason I haven't been doing handwriting is that there's a chore of typing it in.
Yeah, there's a 2-step process of it. That's true. I know.
And I've had stuff get lost.
Yeah.
So it's like when I type it into the cloud, it's not lost.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I go through that too. Like I have so much handwritten stuff that still hasn't been typed in. That is all this material that is not even used, that because it's written and not typed in, it's not really being used. It's one thing you can go over your handwritten stuff and yank stuff out and use it too. But yeah, I'm behind on my getting stuff typed in too. But that, it's another thing too. Like writing it is one thing. But then when you type it in, that's a whole other part of it. Because then you can pretty much double it. Like whatever you wrote, you can make it twice as fat, 3 times as fat. Usually, I mean, that's like if you're getting that re-inspiration back. But, it's like the editing process. You're always going to find something you can change, always some you can add, subtract. So it's another layer of the writing process that's really important. Yeah. But it's my least favorite part of it because it's not the creative part where you're just, brain drain. That can be fun and that can be really therapeutic. But that does feel like a chore, having to type it in and that, even though you can really get some gems out of it, but that's can be time consuming. And then you can type it in and then nothing can happen and then it sits there,
Do you ever find yourself writing on stage or?
Like when I'm actually on stage and writing?
Well, come up with new stuff on stage. They call it,
sometimes I do. Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. I love when that happens. And that's why it's important to get on stage because that does happen. And it might not happen in that very moment, but if you review your set later, you'll think of things.
Yeah.
And that's the value of, recording yourself. It's not always a wonderful experience to go and sit and watch yourself, especially if you don't feel like you did a good job at a show. But if you do, and it's like the whole thing with comedians, that we're doing the same material over and over again, we get tired of our own stuff, so it's like, but like if we keep listening to and going over it, like I will still find new tags from my jokes that I wrote 6 years ago. New tag. You do the same thing. So it's like sometimes that repetition will bring up new birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the new growth. You keep repping at the gym, lifting the weights, your muscles are going to grow. New muscles, same thing with the writing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So, who is the funniest person in your life right now? Could be just anybody.
Probably me. Other than me. Gosh. What's the funniest person? I find animals really funny. Animals, a lot of times they're like natural clowns.
Yeah.
They can really make you laugh just with their antics and, and I mean, I have some comedians that I like. I can't, I would say.
Whatever answer, like.
Right.
Yeah. One set answer, right?
Right. Like, yeah. But I love animals. I love the spontaneity of being out in the world. And
so, do you have pets or?
I have had many pets. You've heard my comedy. I'm vegan, so I love animals. And I love, I do some animal rescue, take care of animals. I have helped rescue animals. And I just have a real bonding and affinity with animals. I find them they can be very funny, right? Like they are little clowns. Cats can be really funny, So.
That's cool. I asked this of everybody. I don't always know the answer, but when did we meet?
We met at Quantum Brewery when I must have somehow I saw your call for comedians.
Yeah.
And so I contacted you, and you were great with sending me the information to get on the list. And you were great getting back and responding, and I show up and I get my time and nobody hassles me, and like you're nice, and so sure. Yeah, that was when. So it was Quantum Brewery San Diego, probably I think it was in the fall of last year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And thank you, Aaron. Thank you for all you do. People probably don't thank you very often. But
you're welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all part of the process, right? Because like I remember the young comedian, hungry, wanting stage time, or even just when am I next on the open mic, and then people like that are running and are like, well, what have you done?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're not giving back. You don't have stage time.
There's a selfishness,
yeah.
right?
Oh, you're right. And then start talking to people like, oh, okay, well, how did you get your venue? And it's like, the stories are like, yeah, right, like that's really going to happen to me. And then just a couple months later it does. Or a year later, I don't remember. Just fall into it.
Right. Comedy has a real interesting life of, everybody's path is different. And what one person does is going to be different than what other people do. Like you have your own path. I have my own path. Jerome has his own path. Our paths cross. Yeah. And we are, on stages and at shows together, and it's great. I mean, the community is really nice to have a community of people that are doing the same thing that you can, run ideas off of, or, it's a lot easier to go to a place where you have people that you like and that like you and support you. And then, get up on stage there versus imagine going up and getting on stage somewhere and having people, working against you, or like weird vibes or something. It's like, that sometimes is the case with people, but it makes it so much nicer when you have a nice support system in the form of other comedians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't do the shows or the open mics without the comics.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you made a good point. It's like when people first start doing comedy and they want to get on stages, and they're used to this. They might used to being aggressive in their everyday life, or pushy and stuff, and then you bring it to an open mic in a comedy world, and you're right. You gotta you can't just come and demand stage time places. This is something that you earn. Or you wait your turn.
Sure.
So.
Right. Yeah, it's good to be a little bit like letting people know that you want it, but not too pushy, not too much. That's one thing that when I started my show, I thought more people were going to be hounding me for stage time. And it's like, maybe because the show's like, twice a week, every week, people just forget that that's a lot of stage time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where I have to keep emailing people. Hey, Saturday has nobody. Come on.
Yeah.
So that was a surprise.
It's interesting too, because a lot of comedians complain about not getting enough stage time or not having enough stage, and then you give it to them and they don't show up.
Right. Well, I think too is that people can be picky about there's different venues, there's different there's more coveted spots, and they're trying to get in the best spots.
Right, because there's so many there's limited coveted spots. There's a lot of spots at the bottom. Right. But they're limited, when you start moving up. That's true.
Yeah.
And it's not always about how funny you are either, Yeah. The politics of comedy.
Right. Well, yeah, politics is, you can't get away from it. It's human social interaction.
Right. And it has to have some form of organization and network and then all those things are inherently dysfunctional. Any system that involves people and organizing them always has an inherent dysfunction to it. Because humans are so inherently dysfunctional.
Exactly. Yeah, people sometimes bring up, I don't like how San Diego is good, but it can be a little bit cliquey. And it's yeah, but I try to explain to them, everybody gravitates towards certain people and away from other people.
Right.
So,
and we need our little groups, or not everybody, not everybody needs a little group, but, if you have a little group that's supportive, it's great. If you feel alienated from other groups, I guess that can be an issue if you have, where it's too cliquey, where people are actually feeling purposely alienated, it can be not good. I don't know that I see that much, but I'm sure it happens,
Yeah. Well,
it's also like we were talking about, a journey where you're not really staying in the same place all the time. So any clique is going to be moving about. It's not going to really last that long. It's it's because people are going to move. People move to different cities. People move up in the comedy world. A lot of people quit. A lot of people jump ship.
Yeah. It's very interesting that sometimes you don't see someone and you're there's a lot of comics where it's did they stop or did they move?
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference.
Right.
Unless
sometimes it's both. They stop and they move.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, it's I have noticed that it's on women and the girls that start relatively young, and they often, and this is probably true with the males too, but women have another set of issues to deal with in comedy. And I think we lose a lot of funny women. We lose a lot of females in comedy because of, some of, the politics and the energy and some of the things. And again, it's true with males too, but women have a whole other set of issues that males don't have. And a lot of times those issues really just become overwhelming, and they quit. So the casualty numbers of women that have walked away from comedy because of how difficult it can be for them. It's just sad. I think of how much funnier our culture could be, and how much better for women comedy could be if women hadn't left. And I don't blame them, Right. And you've probably gone through. We go through different periods where we're like, I want to give this a break, or maybe I'll stop, or I want to stop for a little bit, give it a break. People leave and come back. And sometimes you leave and you can have that space, and then when you come back, you have a whole new set of material now to work with, or you have some refreshed eyes, or you see it in a different way. But it's good. I think taking breaks is good too. Maybe not for everybody.
I haven't actually stopped on purpose. It was just hard to do comedy during lockdown.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, we all lost those times.
So that was like a forced break.
Yeah, that was like when people ask you, how long have you been doing comedy? It's like, well, do I subtract the 2 COVID years?
No, I just count it. I was thinking about it.
Yeah. I got some writing done during those years too. It wasn't a total loss. We couldn't do the live shows and stuff. I did some Zoom shows. I really enjoyed them. I did do a lot of writing during that time.
Nice.
So yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
And it was nice to have the Zoom shows when we were in lockdown. It was a way that we had, camaraderie with other comedians during that time. Otherwise, it was very isolating for a lot of people. So I enjoyed jumping on the Zoom shows with other comedians, and we got to see each other, and it was, it really helped me during the lockdown.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how far have you traveled to do comedy?
Well, I did comedy in Europe. I got to go to England, but I didn't go there for comedy. I went there on a trip, and I don't know that I would actually call it a vacation, but it was a, journey, a trip. And I happened to just connect up with some people in England and doing comedy, and it was quite easy to get on a couple shows. And I loved it. It was great. It was like I wanted to go back and do it. They like American comedians. So, yeah, it's like you're walking into a warm room. And, our material is different than, our culture's different. So they like that difference, So that was nice. I really love that. I would love to go back and do, like English-speaking countries are nice because they, they understand your language, and, you're not feeling like, oh, I'm doing English speaking in another country where, there might be, oh, well, you should be doing it in our language. So it was nice, and in your native language to be able to do comedy, and they hear you in their native language too, and it's nice. So, but like Ireland and Scotland, they have those festivals. What is that festival? The one in the UK. Do you know about that? The Fringe. There's a Fringe. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. So do you have any hobbies or passions or are related to comedy?
I have a lot of hobbies and passions, and some are related to comedy. Comedy is one of them. I'm a writer. I love to write. I'm an artist. I love to create things. I'm a vegan. I'm a vegan chef. I consider my making food art.
Sure.
So when I make my meals, I put an artistic, creative energy into it, and it makes the food much better. Yeah. So I consider that my canvas. Every day I make a meal. It's a canvas, a creative effort. Yeah. So, and doing it that way, it makes me more excited to actually cook and make things when I feel that way, rather than a chore or something I have to do. Right. But I'm a runner. I like outside. I like hiking. I love the beach. I love being outside. I love my friends. Sweet. Yeah.
Nice. So do you wish you started comedy earlier?
I've asked myself that. I think we all say yes to that, like, oh, I wish I would have, if I'd started this many years ago, I would be this much further along. But I do think about that, because it's like, the younger you are and the prettier you are, the easier it is and the more opportunities you have. But like, the older you get and, the more female you are, it becomes more difficult. So, I mean, on that level, but on another level, it's like when I walked into it is when it happened, so it's like, I can't wish for something that it just didn't happen. I think, again, we all go back and think, what would I be like? But maybe if I'd started when I was younger, I may not have had the maturity. I may not have had the wisdom or the strength to keep it up, and I would have got turned off to it and never done it again. So it's like, I think it came to me when I was ready.
Sure.
And I don't know that I didn't have the desire before. Like, when I did it is when I wanted to do it. Before then, I didn't ever think, I want to be a comedian, or I wish I could do that, or like, I didn't have those thoughts. I liked comedy, but it wasn't my dream.
Sure.
So, but now that I'm doing it, I really like it.
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, I think, what if I'd started earlier? But again, I didn't have the maturity. I wasn't there.
So what are your goals in comedy?
My goal is to keep getting better. I am working on, I have a one-woman show that I'm about to perform in. I'm looking for some theaters, and I'm going to be doing that. That's like my big project, like your one-woman show. If you think, if you got a one-man show, that's like your big thing, like your big show, like your big trophy in the world. I did my own show, so that is my goal. The show is ready, meaning I have the material. I'm ready. It's mainly just shopping around the venues and getting it, produced correctly, like sometimes leaving things up to yourself. You don't always do things as well as someone that's a professional could do it for you, such as, like maybe somebody that is just a show producer that can help cut. Like when you do it all yourself, you don't always see everything that you need to change.
Right.
Or someone else would be. So yeah, that's my next goal. That's going to be happening probably in the next couple months. I'll be able to do my one woman show. Then I have a show, and I can shop it around. I can send it like Fringe. I could send it there. They'll invite you, and so those things I'd like to do. Yeah.
All right, cool. So what's your favorite joke? It could be anybody's joke.
I love George Carlin when he said, "It's a special club and you're not in it." Something like that, You ever heard him say that? It's like the Billionaires Club, or the club that makes all the decisions that we have to live under. It's a special, nice, special, unique club, but we're not in it. We're not members.
Right. Okay, cool. Do you remember your first joke?
Yes, I do.
Cool. What about the first joke you want to share?
Do you want to hear my first joke?
Sure.
This was there was sort of like a series of first jokes, but this is a first joke that made it to my first set. It was my first joke that I led off with when I first started.
Okay.
It still works. I don't use it so much anymore because I have other material. Once in a while, I'll throw it in and use it. It still works. It's funny.
All right.
You want to hear it?
Yes.
I trimmed up my pubic hair today. Great news. It was overdue. But yeah, they're nice at Supercuts. Make sure you give them a tip. My first joke. See? Got 2 laughs. I don't know if you guys were just sympathy laughing, courtesy laughing, but that was it. It still works. It's not a bad joke. I didn't tell it also the way that I think I probably left out a couple words because I haven't told it. I wasn't ready for that. But it was, you get it. It works. It worked.
Cool. So did you have like a favorite fan interaction? Either someone was a fan of you or you were a fan of someone else. I went to, this was me being a fan of somebody else.
I was having a tough day. This was a couple years ago. I was in LA. And I had a tough day. I was feeling like I was coming down with something. Things weren't going good. I didn't have a good day. I think I had gone to 2 mics already that day. One, I got there late and couldn't get on. I drove all this way to get there and I couldn't get on. Another one, I bombed. A crap mic, bomb. So I'm feeling, I thought, so I went to a later mic. It was a night mic. And I drove out of the way. This was, like I said, it was in LA. I drove to get there. And I sign up. She puts it was a lottery, picks my name out. I'm like number 2. Picks my name. Oh, so I get up there, I do my set. It's a typical like open mic. It was a little theater. It wasn't like one of the real crappy ones. It was a nice little theater. Lights out, you have stage lights. Couldn't see the audience. It was like a real nice, little theater. It was nice. So I get up, I do my set. 2 ladies in the front were just laughing hysterically, giggling. I thought they were giggling teenagers. They were giggling. I was so happy. People were laughing. It sort of like made my day like better, just because. So laughing. I sit down in my seat, finish my set. It was a good set. I sit down in my seat. A few people later, she picks somebody else out of the name, picks like a Maria. It was Maria Bamford. And she had been in the front row laughing at my jokes. I know, she was at that open mic. So, and then after the mic, she got up and she gave me some compliments. She thought it was really good. And she was actually the one that said, you should do your own show. I hadn't thought about it before. Yeah. So then since then, that was a couple years ago, I have been working on it and now it's ready.
Oh, that's
yeah.
great.
So that was probably my most profound comedy interaction. Yeah, I mean, I still think about it, because I felt it was also one of those times where we were saying, like, a lot of comedians go through a period where they feel like they might want to quit or it's just getting so hard. It becomes, like, not worth it anymore because how it is. It's time. It's energy. It can even be a financial burden, So it's like you have to want it. You have to want it that bad to be able to absorb the losses that you're going to get, So I was weighing it out and I just was thinking these other things are calling my name. These have more benefits. There's more love. You notice it can be a brutal world, brutal environment. So I was like, I was considering just kind of like not walking away together because I do like it. I like writing comedy. I do feel like it's a special skill that if you're called upon to do it, you should do it because it's making people laugh. What a holy task.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a very honorable action. That is if you're making people laugh in a nice way. I'm not talking about mean-spirited humor, But so, yeah, I'm still running on those fumes because, doing my own show, I hadn't really thought about that before.
Yeah.
So now I got it ready. I can thank her, Maria Bamford. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's your favorite place to do comedy?
Quantum Brewery. My favorite place. I mean, I love getting up on the stages at the big clubs where you have the big crowds and stuff. I do. I love that because you really feels like you're in the right place. Now those don't come all the time, but when they come, I'm really grateful for them. And I still, again, live off of those fumes from when I got to do those experiences, and then I store it within myself, and then I always have it. And it's like we're building memories, we're creating memories for ourselves. Like every time we get on stage, it can be difficult sometimes, humiliating, brutal, all those things, but then it can also be the euphoria, the bliss, the wonderful part of it. So those are the moments that we're chasing. And the memories of it, it's like the memories that I got from doing this, that's what would be difficult to walk away from. It's just the fun. Can be really difficult. It is. You go through it, and thankless, and you question why am I doing this? But it is a holy act to be able to make people laugh, and inspire people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So what was your family like growing up?
My family life. My dad had a good sense of humor. He was funny. And, both of my parents had good sense of humor. So we grew up around, no, they weren't comedians and stuff, but, we had laughter in the house. I have a sister who was very funny. She had friends, they were funny. In school, I was the funny one too. We had school. I loved laughing. I loved getting together with my friends and laughing. And, I loved it. I mean, as hard as life can be, we had our laughter with our friends. That was everything. Remember how hard we had those hard days and the hard times you're going through, tough times as a kid, and you got together with your friends and you guys laughed hysterically so hard, and it like healed everything. Laughter is therapy. Laughter is healing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there was laughter in the house and laughter in my life, and I do feel like that stayed with me, and I learned how to use it to inspire people and also hold audiences. If you're reading poetry, to a crowd of people, you better have something good in there. Otherwise, people are gonna fall asleep. They're gonna leave. Oh, poetry's boring. All this. So it's like, I mean, you want to have good material to share with people. I feel like it's a gift. This is my gift I'm bringing to people. I'm giving you this gift. So I want the gift to be nice. I don't give someone a box of rocks. So I work on that. I do it for, hopefully to make people laugh.
Nice. So what's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory in general?
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know what was the earliest because there's like a set of memories that I remember. But I do remember a lot of I remember happy moments with my parents and my grandparents. Being maybe like being at the swimming pool, going on vacation with my parents. I had a rather good childhood. It wasn't always that way, but like when I was a little kid and, like those formative years, I was lucky enough to have good years, and I think that was important for, it's important for our brain development and our general, like how we get out there in the world. So, I have memories of like my parents loving me and my parents protecting me and, my playing outside on big wheels and bicycles and with the neighbors and playing kickball. I had an active childhood. I was very athletic. So that was another reason I think comedy came to me later, because I was doing athletic stuff. Yoga teacher, practicing yoga, I run, I hike, doing all those things. That's outside. Comedy is rather solo. You're writing by yourself. When you're on stage, you're by yourself. And like you go to shows, you're by yourself. I mean, we have our comrades and we have our friends, which makes it really nice. But ultimately, we go up on stage, we're humiliated. We're humiliated by ourselves. Our friends are not sharing in that with us. They're not taking the brunt. But,
Cool. So, what's the biggest audience you performed for?
I was on the Kill Tony show twice.
Wow.
Yeah, I got picked out of the bucket twice when he was in LA. Now he moved to Texas. So it was probably that, because the Comedy Store, was in the main room, and that room was full. And then it was on YouTube, it was on the podcast. That went out to I don't know how many people. So that, yeah.
Cool. Nice. And then where did you grow up?
I grew up on the East Coast.
Do you ever do a character on stage?
No.
Cool. Have you ever won a comedy contest or anything like that?
I won Best One-Liner one evening in Las Vegas.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. I got a cheap plastic trophy.
Favorite. So, what's your best booking story? Like, oh, I got booked on this show that I really wanted to get booked on, or something like that.
I would say that I have a couple of them. I have a hard time like narrowing things down to one. It's more like a group, But I got picked to be on Chocolate Sundays, the Laugh Factory. Do you know about Chocolate Sundays?
Sounds familiar.
Chocolate Sundays is it's a black show, black produced show, and the comedians are they have mostly black comedians, and occasionally they will have white comedians to their. It's called like a first timer Spotlight Sundays. They call it at the Laugh. It's a show every week that they have at the Laugh Factory. It's been going on a long time, and they have fantastic comedians like touring and writers on networks and stuff. And I sent them. This was when I first started. I don't think I had been in comedy even a year. I sent them my video, and they invited me to do the Spotlight Sundays, and I did it within my first year, and it was fantastic. Like, it was one of the best nights of comedy I've ever had because it was at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood. It was a full house.
Wow.
And I was like the newbie. They all knew each other. I was like, nobody knew who I was. I came and everybody was nice. Everybody was supportive. They gave me, and like, I had a great set. I only had 2 minutes, but it was fantastic. Yeah, so it was great. And again, it was like rookie luck and experience. But all those experiences fed to keep me going. Had I bombed and it had been humiliating and had they been brutal to me, it might have been different. I don't know that I would have kept up with it all. If those things happen many times, it's like, then you wonder, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So there was that, and then I've been invited included in a couple of festivals, comedy festivals, that are not that easy to get into.
Nice.
So I was happy about that. Yeah.
All right. So what's the worst thing about comedy right now?
The worst thing about comedy is that the worst thing I think is having consistent bookings in different places, like maybe even different states or different like. I think that it can be done when I've reached out to people in other states. I send them my set, I'll be passing through. They're very welcoming. Yeah, come in. That's nice. So, but that's a difficult thing because, it's like you're going into new places and I don't know. I think I could go on and on with that question, but in, different things. But I think that the most difficult thing is probably just, getting the regular bookings at and also that feeling where you're, kind of being in different environments, like not just clubs, like not performing in just clubs, like maybe performing at private events and cruise ships and like having the various experiences. Not club life can get stale and it can get lonely and it can get it can be brutal too. Even if you're getting laughs, it can just be a very cold world, and if you include, some of the alcohol and the drugs that's around and you're not doing that stuff, you can feel alienated and it can feel cliquey. Not that you're being left out and everybody's in this special group and you're not in it, but it's like, people are having their own experiences. And this is a solo journey, so.
Have you ever been in a car accident?
Oh, many. I've been in several car accidents.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I've been in many odd accidents. I'm lucky to be alive. That's why I feel like, I do feel lucky to be living in this body and having this life. I do feel really grateful for my life and the stuff I get to do. Yeah. I touched on that when we first started, but it's like how lucky we are. We can complain, but most of the world can't do this. Yeah. Here we're doing it. So I love that.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have your own merch?
I have it. I started to make it. It's in my computer right now. I have some things I find it's one more thing to do. You show up at a show, it's like, well, now I gotta bring the t-shirts and I gotta have this and it's so I'm not a merch pusher. I probably could be smarter and do it. I should, but do you?
I have a little bit of merch. We're in my Comedy Your Worst
Good.
shirt right now.
All right.
A lot of it's just print on demand though.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what people are doing. I have some t-shirts that I designed, but they're not for the comedy world, because it is like, when you do a comedy show and then stand up there at the end selling t-shirts. That's not what I want to be doing. I don't want to be selling t-shirts at the end of a comedy show. I'd rather just walk away with my laughs. It's 40, 50, 60, $100. I'd rather just walk away from a show feeling good. Order the shirt from the website. But yeah, there's people are really good at that. I've seen people make an art form out of that. Or they'll sell a digital version of their set for $5 or $10 after the show. And the person will give, well, I donate a portion of this to, homeless shelters, and and that will get people to buy stuff. I've seen comedians be crafty with it, where people walk away with something that they like, and that the comedian, it was worth it for them, and that they are, hopefully they're really donating the money.
Right. Let's see. How do you feel about social media right now?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Are you a Gen Xer? Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer too. So it's like, for us, we're like in the middle where, like I could be a lot better at it. I could be doing a lot more on it, and I should be. And I think if I was, I'd be a lot further along in this journey. It's like, and again, I've seen people do really crafty things with social media. Like they might not be the funniest comedian or have the best jokes or have the best stage presence, but they have these videos and these funny things. That's really good. So there's that avenue. There's different avenues of comedy that doesn't have to be standing up on a stage, doing stand-up. It's like there's different avenues to explore. And sometimes when you start with stand-up, you've seen this, people will merge into other things. Like some actors use stand-up for, to get better at acting, and also to give them access to more gigs. Makes them more versatile, But I forgot what the question. I know I take the question and I take it, and then I forgot what it was.
Talking about how you feel about social media.
Oh, social media. Okay. So yeah, if there was a class and the teacher was a good teacher, I'd take the class on it. I would like to be learning more. I really don't have like the patience to sit there and make all those mistakes until you get it right. It's like, and you can really get lost. I mean, by the time I check my feeds and, like I have another life and a business, it's like by the time I do that and then to do the comedy stuff, I mean, it's very time soon. Then you got your friends and you have your life and you got your pets and you have your family. You got, like, all that you got to like do in your life. So like to sit on the social media and waste time with stuff I don't know how to do, or that you can spend a long time on something and then have it not go through or not work, or you did it wrong, or no, there's so many, and then it's a lot of wasted a lot of time sitting on what all of us have.
Right. That's why you gotta find stuff that you like to do.
Yeah, and I think finding stuff that you like to do like that you're good at it. Like if you're good at something, you like doing it often,
Right.
like, but if you don't like doing it but you're good at it, that's different.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I'm doing this series where it's how to ride a unicycle and then do something else. And
Good.
The joke is I never show you how to ride a unicycle. It's just, and sometimes I even say, oh, well, we all know how to ride a unicycle, but you maybe don't know how to ride a unicycle and do this other thing. So this is how you do that.
Oh, okay. So you're doing it while you're on the unicycle.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You know.
Because very few people ride a unicycle, and very few people do something else while they're on the unicycle.
Yeah. So it's just fun to do it.
Yeah, that's a good series.
Yeah.
But like, you probably have the same experience I do. You could be out there every day making funny videos and this and that. You know, we should be doing that. I don't know. I'm not saying you're not doing it. I mean, you're probably not, but maybe you are.
I did bank a bunch, and then like I had them coming out once a day, and then now it's like there was a dry spell. I just recorded one last night, and I haven't posted it.
Yeah, and then like your stuff can be really good and really funny, and then it doesn't have any views, and then you're like, again, all this time you spent on something for nobody to look at, and then you think, well, I could be doing this thing.
That's why you got to kind of do it for yourself, and then hopefully, if you like it, maybe you know, it will catch on. And like,
yeah, that's true. It's like if you like it, then that should just be enough, and
Right.
like hopefully people will catch on and like it too. But it's like there's also targeting, like your video, like that's an interesting concept for people that. I'm sure there's people out there, there's subcultures for everything, but there's a subculture of unicyclists. So like those people would probably really like those videos, but it's like getting that in front of them. Well, you got to pay for the advertising to target those people, and then what are you really getting from that anyway?
Yeah, I don't know if I would
target them, but
I don't
then if
know
you
if I would,
have a
pay.
good video in front of the wrong audience, that's the dilemma that we often have is like, and also preaching to the choir, our same stuff to our same groups, well, we already know all that, so it's like, well, we want to access new populations so that they can see it, and they keep us pretty controlled, the social media giants, as far as who actually can see us and who has access. So there's that part of it too. It's like the Goliath battle and like these
what
big.
people forget a lot of times is you can just, you can go to each of your people that you want to follow and just look at them. You don't have to follow your feed.
Yeah, right.
You can go, oh, what's John doing? Go
Yeah.
look at John's feed and then go to Mary or whatever.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to follow the algorithm.
Right. But then that's a lot more like, we're used to just scroll, and then like we have to go out of our way and go to this person's page. Oh, that's asking a little much now.
Right. Oh, yeah. You also could call them or text them.
Yeah, right.
That.
It's so funny how this is the how we've been worked over with this stuff in the last, the last 5, 10 years, 15 years. But it's really ramped up the last 5, like the Instagram stuff that, I wasn't even using Instagram, like the stories and like, it's hard to keep up with everything. Technology, like it changes so fast, adapts so fast. Like you learn a program, you learn something, it's already obsolete. So that's why I also think, well, why bother learning how to do this when in a couple weeks it's going to be different anyway, So, but yeah, there's so many things to learn, all the programs, and like if you wanted, like video editing is a big thing with comedians. You have a video, you need to be able to edit it. It's like so many things to be learning. Graphics. Do you want to do flyers? You got to do that. Some people have a knack and they can do that stuff really easily. They just are naturals at it. Doesn't take them long. It takes me a long time to do that stuff. I can do some good stuff, but it takes me a long time.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, you wonder, why did I spend all that time? It's nice, but 1 or 2 people come to the shows from the work. But again, you're doing it for yourself. Not really. We're, it's more than just about us, of course.
Yeah. It's nice sometimes when people will, you'll see people and they'll say, oh yeah, I like that last video you did. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even if it has like 5 likes, it's kind of an abstract thing. I don't go and see, well, who exactly liked it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's nice to get the feedback.
Yeah, it is. Especially if like you're not everybody that likes stuff hits the like button or comments or, so it's nice to hear it from people. Yeah, that's true.
Or they'll like just like it and they didn't even watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch the whole thing.
Well, and you pulled them in enough to get a compliment from it, Sometimes I think just probably seeing somebody on a unicycle is cool, because again, it's not something that most people do or have. I've never been on a unicycle, and I've ridden bikes, and so it's interesting. It's something like a circus act type of thing, right? So you could have a dog, carry a dog. How to be on a unicycle and walk a dog.
Yeah. I think I did that one.
Yeah. How to be on a unicycle and carry a cat. Put a cat on your head.
I haven't done that one yet.
That's a good idea. Cat videos get a lot of views.
Someone did. I said, well, give me some recommendations of what to do. And then someone's like, carry a cat. And I was like, okay, well, do you have a cat I could borrow? You know, because like, I don't just have a spare cat.
You don't have a cat?
I don't have a cat.
You could adopt. There's plenty of cats at the shelter. Wonder if you could check one out for the afternoon.
I'm not in a place where I could have a cat right now. Oh my goodness, they would knock everything over. Yeah, other people's pets are nice.
Yeah.
You can visit them and then.
Right. You could put a big large pizza on your head. How to ride a unicycle with the large pizza on your head.
There we go. All right, I'll have to do that one. Cool. So is there anything else you want to talk about?
Thank you, Aaron.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Are you, this is a nice series that you do for people. Thank you for the interviewing us lost soul comedians.
Yeah, trying to get everybody that wants to be on the podcast to be able to, or, you know, if the people are in San Diego, you know, even visiting, like, to have people.
I will pass on the information. It's certainly a pleasure to be joining you on your on a comedy podcast. I mean, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a great interview.
How do people find you?
You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. It's my Instagram is avanti.comedy.art, and my Facebook is just Avanti on Facebook. I pop up on there, but you know, don't expect hilarious videos. I should be posting more. Should be doing more funny stuff. You know, we should all.
Cool. All right, that's the end of the podcast.
Comedy or worse.
Yay, comedy or worse.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.